Good morning and welcome back to the Up Zone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts. I am Tisha Waddell, former city council member for the 3rd District in the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House representative for the 43rd District in the state of North Carolina. Mr. Floyd, how are you today?
Thank you, Tish. It took you 2 years to get us to get my correct title, and I appreciate that.
My
And
pleasure, sir.
but and I'm doing fine. I mean, I had a wonderful weekend, the best that I had in a long time.
Why
The
so good?
landline, the landline was frozen. The mailman did not run. So I mean, for me, it was beautiful.
You know,
So
Mr. Floyd, do you know that I realized at this point in my life, I only go through my mail once a month?
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. See, I had to go through mine regular because I get a little bit more bills than you do. So other than that, hey, I had a wonderful week. One,
Yeah.
but I'm a little disappointed in this week because I thought that we would have another, a little sleep, but we didn't have any this morning, so I was a little disappointed. But I'm here. I'm here with you, so
Right. And I
everything's
am here
good.
with you. And Mr. Floyd, I'm excited about today because last week when we left off, we said we were going to pick up talking about the schools. And today we're going to resume with that. And I'm looking forward to the conversation that we're going to be having about our Cumberland County school system. But Mr. Floyd, before we get into that, what um what announcements do you have for the
What
people?
Teach this coming weekend, the NAACP is going to have their activity at the Fuller Center. Tickets are
Mhm.
$75, and the program starts at 6. And they're going to be a ride for Martin Luther King, and this is done by Joe McGee, and this is going to start Saturday at 10 o'clock with people participating in that. It's going to line up between 9 and 9:30 there. He's trying to get youth more involved into the Martin Luther King Park, and this is because of the cancellation of the parade, and also to celebrate the 40 year signing. I mean, 40 year. I think he said was the signing of the Martin Luther King birthday. And then Vets Unlimited is going to have their I'm sorry, their red and white activity at the Striders Club on I think it's 4461 Cameron Road this coming Saturday at 7 o'clock. And Chief, I told you last week that there was a forum at Fairfield State, and that's going to be at the Lions Center at 120, and that's from 5 o'clock until 2 to 5. And then last night you sent me one at 1 o'clock in the morning at a
It was
primary
not
forum.
1 o'clock in the morning when I sent that to you.
Well, when I looked at it, I thought it was 1 or 12, but it's the primary forum at Crossroad Church there, and that's going to be on the 19th of this month, and that's going to be at 6:30. So remember now what you all
Mr. Floyd, you're not about to have these
please
people out here
attend these
thinking that
forums.
you're not about to have these people thinking that I'm waking you up at 1 o'clock in the morning sending you these texts.
Okay,
I
you got to
I
be
got this.
if you're gonna
I
be
got this. It
involved.
was
If you're gonna be involved, if you're gonna be involved, that's the thing that if you're going to be involved, you must be prepared to receive communication.
at one
Some
o'clock in
of
the
us,
morning.
anytime, I mean, but we have a lot of people that don't return your phone call, don't do anything. But if you involved with people, one thing that's involved is that you must be alert so that you can respond to people, when they call you.
Yeah,
But a
and
lot
Mr.
of our
Floyd, I
people,
think I said something. I don't know if I said this last week, but if I did, I want to correct it. I think when I was talking about the mayor endorsing candidates, I don't know if I stated the position that the person that we have heard that he has endorsed was running for, but I want to clarify that individual is running at large. So
yeah,
there is no conflict if he endorses the person that we talked about last week because they're not even running for the same seat.
No, no, they're not running. They're not, and I think that he is due. Uh, I think that he should, but I doubt very seriously.
Well, maybe they fell out. I don't know because I don't keep up with what folks got going on. But this is the forum that we were telling you about. Interestingly enough, this is the only one I've heard about so far. Now, at this point in the city council race, excuse me, we had had a good 10 forums by this point. The Divine Nine, some of the members had their forums. The different community organizational groups, the NAACP, everybody had a forum, and the vast majority of us showed up to these forums. But this is the only one so far that I've been made aware of that's happening. And the interesting thing about this is when they had their forum, this organization, it was a two-part forum for the city. The city had to come and listen to the people talk, and then we had to come back and respond to their concerns. So this does not appear to be that. This appears to be a one-part forum. Maybe it's hard to herd the county commissioners. I don't know. But I want to see some
Well,
more forums. I want the
for
pressure to be
what?
on the
See,
county. Well, I'm
for
gonna tell you
what?
why, Mr. Floyd. I'm gonna
Oh,
tell you why. And
tell,
you know,
tell me why.
I'm about to tell you
I don't.
because I'm gonna tell you why. Because 90% of the questions that I was asked as a candidate running for the city of Fayetteville as mayor were questions that should be posed to these candidates, because it was stuff that we couldn't do anything about. Do you Are you going to have a conversation with the board of commissioners about building a new E.E. Smith High School? How do you feel about funding the SROs? How do you feel about all of this? Falls under their wheelhouse.
Well, Tish, you know, many don't even know and understand the functions of local government. What I mean by state government, county government, and local government.
Which
Many
is
of them
all the
don't
more
even
reason why
understand.
people need to be tuning into this podcast, because we try and make sure that you understand who your gripe is with. Because some of the stuff that you all have an issue with, this is the perfect time to be having a conversation about it, because these are the people that make the direct decisions in regards to those issues. I'm surprised to see that with this many candidates running for county commissioner, because this is abnormal. To see this
Well,
full of a field is abnormal. So I'm just surprised that they get a pass. But
oh,
congratulations to you, county commissioners, for not having to go through the grueling, arduous task of sitting in a library that's 20 degrees colder than what your body is accustomed to, and having to sit
well,
and maintain your composure while you answer questions that aren't even germane to the work that you are applying to do. Kudos to
well,
you guys.
Tish, let me say to you, I'm reminded of a video that you sent me, and it
Which
was
one?
during the day, and that was during the day when one of the persons that's running for county commission said that one of the candidates' sign was in yards,
Okay.
property owner yard. And I was just amazed to ride through the city to see that most of the signs that I seen of his was on street corners.
Okay.
Okay. And I was
Yeah.
just amazed, but I couldn't really read it because of the coloring of the sign. And I
Okay.
think that that's critical. When you're running for a campaign, I mean, if you're running for office, make the sign simple so
You really
people
want to
can see it.
you really want to engage somebody that's in branding, and this is why. And I'm not offering my services because I don't want to work with anybody on their campaign. But you want to work with somebody in branding because you want to be visually memorable. And in order to be visually memorable, and you want your materials to tell a story before people ever hear you. But this is an element that a lot of people are missing when it comes to running their campaign. There are a few signs across the city. I'm going to tell you one sign that I see. It's so simple, but it's effective because it's super simple. It's two colors, it's a name, it's the position, and the name is big enough for you to see the name regardless of where you are. Very simple, very effective. The people with their pictures in their we don't need to see what you look like. We really don't care. And I think that a lot of you put your pictures because you want people to easily identify your ethnicity because you think that it gives you an advantage. But I'm going to tell you, it can harm you just as quickly as it can hurt you. And we need to know your name. We don't need to see your face, because when we go to vote, your face is not going to be on the ballot. And even if we see your face, if we like what you look like, if we can't read your name at the time that we ride by your sign, it's just a pretty picture on a sign, and it does not do the work, that the heavy lifting you needed
But
to do.
teach and tell me now you have at least 5 to 8 seconds to read a sign. With all
If
of that
that.
small, I mean, with
And it's a
all of
sea
that
of
small
signs. It's a
right,
sea of signs.
yeah. I mean, it just, I don't understand how you're gonna run a campaign and you running for office and your sign is I know I'm exaggerating, a 12 font.
Yeah, and the objective is name recognition. And I'm going to tell you, there are two. So there's two signs. There's two, because the other one, even though, well, yeah, they're both, they both hold the same value. They're simple, just a name, two color signs. There might be like some other little small color in there, but not anything to draw away from the name and the office. And that's really, that's what you want. That's what you want.
But
Mr. Floyd, so let's hope that people will show up to this forum. And even if you don't show up, go on social media and watch it. They're usually streamed on Facebook. Go and watch it, because you guys need to hear how these people perform. You need to pay attention to the performances, because politics is performative. So you need to know how your performers perform before you hire them to do the performative job that they're going in to do. Mr.
and
Floyd, it's a lot.
most of them are car salesmen.
Not, I'm gonna say this:
Mhm. They
the
sell
good
car.
ones are the good ones are
Yeah, they
the
car
good ones
salesmen.
are
I mean, they
the
can
ones
sell
who
you a
tend to get elected regularly are.
yeah, can sell you a car and you make the down payment and they tell you that you can take the car, but we're gonna send the tires 6 weeks later.
Mr. Floyd, I have a question. We've been talking
Yeah.
about the county of Cumberland, and I know usually we go city, county, state, but I want to start back where we left off last week when we talked about how the enrollment drops were putting Cumberland County schools funding at risk. Very quickly, just as a recap, because we didn't really get into it last week, but there has been a lot of discussion about Cumberland County schools and consolidations and new buildings and all of the things. And according to reporting last week, the enrollment at Cumberland County schools is down about 1,240 students this year, and that's about a 2.5% enrollment decline, bringing the total enrollment to 47,177. And at the district's first Budget and Finance Committee meeting of the year, Associate Superintendent Jay Tolan warned that the drop could cost the district millions in future state funding. And we talked about that, Mr. Floyd. But one of the things that we didn't really get to was the conversation that surrounds this drop in enrollment. So, Mr. Floyd, I want you to sort of share with our audience some of the things that you were sharing with me about the concern regarding enrollment at Cumberland County schools.
Well, Chief, let me say this. Next year funding for the school system is based on this year enrollment. So
Absolutely.
we are down 1,200 students, and I think they say that that's equal a little over $4 million,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in funding. That's what we are looking at. So because we have lost these students now, where are they? But when we look at the total population, we see that our population has not grown also. So that also has an effect on the dollar funding. But
Mm-hmm.
when we look at it, the county is in a position right now that they say they have 800 and somewhat $1 million worth of capital project improvement.
Mm-hmm.
They have lost 1,200 uh, students, and they have 27 failing schools.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a
Well,
they
and
have
that's, let's sit right there for just a second, because that's, you're you're now speaking to the heart of what I think people should be most concerned about. 27 failing schools, but they were talking about the potential of the school system and the academic, like the gifted program, the gifted students. You mentioned something about the gifted students, and it made me think about my children's time in the public school system. Mr. Floyd, do you know how difficult it is to get an academically talented child classified as gifted and to get them in classes that actually challenge them and push them and keep them engaged? Because a lot of kids fail in school because they're bored, not because they're stupid, because they're not challenged and they're not motivated, not because they're stupid. But a lot of the children who are in the gifted program, what was your observation about that?
I think that the way in which I believe there was a concern about the selection process. You know, when I looked at that report, it says that the school system itself has is about a little over 40+% minority students, and in this program, 22,000 plus of the zip code, and
For
I think about
translation's sake,
1,200.
Mr. Floyd, I want to let the people know when you say of the other zip code, you're actually referring to of a different ethnicity.
This, yes, yes,
Right.
that. But the majority of the students, come from 301. Okay, so they make up 13%. So, of those gifted students. So, are you trying to say is that 301 students are not gifted? When we make
Well,
up the
this has
majority
been a
of the student
conversation that's been
population?
going on. Yeah, and this conversation has been going on for a very long time, dating back to the Leandro case in terms of equity in education. And Mr. Floyd, it's unfortunate because when we look at the declining enrollment, and I can just speak for myself, I'm not going to generalize. When I think about what prompted me to take my children out of the Cumberland County Public Schools, it is exactly the types of things we're talking about now. It was the rate of failing schools. It was the the lack of capacity to support my gifted students because I knew the capabilities of my children, and I didn't need for somebody to affix a label to them to tell me their capacity to learn. I knew they needed to be pushed beyond the boundaries of what they were experiencing within the classroom. I also recognized the trend toward disciplining um, students in a way that wasn't congruent with what I thought made sense. Because as a substitute teacher at the time, I was observing how these students were being treated in terms of discipline and punishment and awards based upon the teacher's perception. And Mr. Floyd, is something, and I'm not one to think that race governs all things. Let me preface by saying that. But our complexion is more than just a skin color. Many times it comes with some cultural similarities, some expectations. Like, as an example, culturally, Black and Brown people don't tend to allow their children to address them by first name or to befriend them prematurely. So I say that to say when you're dealing with these students, a cultural understanding is required in order to be able to apply a fair hand of discipline and in order to educate them. So when you in a school, and I'll give you a recent example of another parent who pulled their child out. When you are in a school and a teacher is just sort of boxing your child into the narrative that they can't learn and they won't listen, and you observe them in the classroom and you recognize that the teacher's not even paying attention to your child's learning style, that's a problem. That's a problem. And parents are recognizing this. And now, because their General Assembly has armed them with the tools to be able to pull their kids and afford to take their tax dollars elsewhere to educate them, they're doing that. And I think that that's why we're seeing the decline in enrollment.
Well, when you look at it, see, I know the Capital Academy, which is down, right down the street. When I looked at and I read the data about the enrollment, there's more minority students, percentage wise, not that great now, in that school. And when you look at the Alpha Academy, you know, uh, it's received a lot of funding for its students. And parents now are looking at the system itself. And I think that parents know best for their child. But many people in my party believe that we keep pouring money
Money at the
into it.
problem.
But, you
Yes.
know, that's what
Yes.
that's what my party see. But you have to look at it now. When we look at charter school, if we go back and look at charter school in the early 90s when it was started by the Democrat Party. And the only difference is flexibility. They're still public schools, but they have a flexibility in the way in which they teach. But so, but now that charter school have grown by leaps and bounds and going to grow more by 30, 32 with the funding that the General Assembly is going to provide. Now we're upset with charter school. But remember now, it was the Democrats that started charter school. So when I look at it as a member of the General Assembly, former member of the General Assembly, I said, okay, you know, they really didn't want their kids in 301. So they started the charter school. And it's just like cars today. I mean, technology, thing changes there. So the Republicans saw a way how they can strengthen charter school, and they did that. Now, again, we think that if we continue to pull money into a system, it will get better. It's just like the county. I think the
The
county
county
gave
is
us
asking for $30 million for out of $98.5 million of this money that the county is asking, get ready to ask the General Assembly for. 30 million of that is earmarked for public education, 15 million for school repairs and upgrades, and 15 million toward replacing E. E. Smith High School.
teach. I do not see, and fast forwarding what you just mentioned, that was an article that the county is asking the members of the Cumberland County General Assembly to
Right.
assist them in attaining $98.5 million. It would never happen.
Yeah.
Never happen.
Mr.
We
Floyd, it would be so nice to go back to the model of school where teachers prepare their students through reading, writing, and arithmetic, where they made these children have to write these papers so that they could learn how to critically think, where they like just to be able to give teachers the opportunity to go back to a model of teaching that really focused on teaching. But here's the thing. I don't care what anybody thinks our political system has been intended to do, or even our educational system. I need for folks to understand if you really want your children to learn something, you better teach them, because the vast majority of these systems were never designed to induce thinkers. They were designed that these institutions are working exactly the way they were intended to work.
will teach. I look at it, and I look at where we are today, and we talking about this $98.5 million that the county is asking. They having a meeting on, I think it's March the 12th, and the General Assembly usually, time changes at about 11 o'clock in the morning and end somewhere around 1 and 2. That may change. But on a Thursday, when those members are traveling back home from the General Assembly, the meeting should be on a Monday morning or a Friday or a Saturday. But right now, the General Assembly does not even have a budget. So to waste taxpayer money to provide whatever, to have this meeting, it's not going to happen when members of our delegation look at caucus first, constituent second, and then conscience last. They reverse the process of responding to their constituents. So I do not see us getting any money. We don't have the kind of strength in the General Assembly, nor the leadership or committee assignments to generate and to bring that money back to the county. But if you think that I'm joking about that, go to the General Assembly and type in members. select them members and look at the committee assignment of the members of the Cumberland County General Assembly. I say to you, and I say again, the best person that has more time in the General Assembly is Representative Mike Coe, based on committee assignment. So
Yeah.
that's where the strength lies. And those persons that brought back money to to our community, all three of them is gone
Right.
because the
And
voters
they
did
had the
not.
committee assignments and they had the relationships. And I'll say at this point, and this is why, and I continue to assert this, at this point, to change out Diane Wheatley would be ridiculously foolish because she's the only person that we have left there who has any relationships. And that is in large part to her ties to the Republican Party because
Republican
they
Party.
are it right. So
Now,
at
now,
this point, to
the,
switch her out for anybody else means that we're going to be doing more of a disservice to our community. We do need to be pressing on Miss Wheatley and asking her as a community for what it is we want or need and
but
putting a requirement on her to bring something back for
she,
all of the citizens of Fayetteville. Mr. Floyd, I know you're shaking your head, but I'm just telling our people how it should work. I'm just
it
telling them
should
how it
work.
should
It
work.
should work that way.
Right.
But then
And then there
again,
should be a requirement because if we're going to support you, we need for you also to support us. And I'm going to say again, I believe that that's possible. I believe it's possible. I don't
okay,
believe that there's a closed door policy where she's concerned, but I think you have to I think you got to start putting your ducks in a row and start asking these questions.
I think
Now,
I think I think that you're right. She is the only one that can do that. And then we have a senator that's in another county. Okay,
yes,
that
yes.
that that could
Those are the only
provide
two
some.
that you really need to be trying to worry about right now cuz the rest of these
But do they
people
have the same
they're
interest though?
dispendable.
Do they have the
They're
same
expendable.
common interest? I mean,
Well, see, but this
that's
is
the
the thing. So here's the thing that we have to start thinking about. We have to start thinking beyond Republican and Democrat, and we have to start learning how to explain our interests to people that we otherwise wouldn't be having conversations with. But the problem that we have is that people don't want to talk across party lines. So instead of writing them off and saying they don't share our interests, go and tell them what your interests are and hold them accountable like you would anybody else. That's the whole name of the whole game. But Mr. Floyd, let me ask you this because I'm a little bit when we talk about schools, I always tie schools to housing. I always tie schools to housing because when you find a strong housing market, usually there are good schools in that area. A strong
Mhm.
housing market is usually supported by good schools. When you find a thriving economic engine in a community, there are usually good schools in that community. So let me tell you what a USA Today story let us know recently. According to data that has been published by the USA Today network, using Realtor.com listings, the median home listing for sale in North Carolina in Cumberland County is down 2% from November and is 10% lower than it was in December of 2024. So it's down 2% from November of 2025, but it's 10% lower than it was in December of 2024. So the housing cost or the sale price of housing has dropped 10% in 2 years, but our property valuation increased. The figures reflect listing prices only, not completed sales, and focus on single family homes, condos, and townhomes currently on the market. The median list price is 269,500, which is a reduction of 2% from last November, a reduction of 10% from the 2 years prior. And for context, Fayetteville Metro's median is $295,000, whereas North Carolina's median is $399,000. So our home pricing is already 100,000. I'm saying all this, Mr. Floyd, to remind people as we have conversations about affordable housing. This is our housing market. Our homes are
Let me
valued
start. Affordable,
$100,000.
affordable apartments, please. Okay,
The you
affordable apartments.
let me finish though. So North Carolina's median housing cost is 399,000, which is in line with the US median cost of 399,000. We are $100,000 um based on homes. Let me just say it like this. Cumberland County homes continue to list well below state and national medians, both in total price and price per square foot. You know, you would think, with that being the case, that people who live and work in another area that might be near us would live here and work there because their money goes longer, but that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. Now, it used to happen 20 years ago where people worked in Raleigh and lived in Fayetteville, but that's not happening anymore, Mr. Floyd. What is going on with our community?
Well, you know, you have to be visionary. That's what we need to do. Now, in taking what you just said, uh, if you look at it, let's look at what's this Cowardice One on Murchison Road, where they're gonna build these 84 units. Okay, what is that gonna be for Madam Water?
Low income housing.
And what's on the other side of that bridge?
Low income housing.
Now, if you
And
go
what's
up the
down the
street
street and around the corner from there? Low income
income
housing.
house. So if you go up to Elliott Circle, low income houses, and
Hmm.
if you go to where they want to look at, I think it's Rosemary up here by Hardest and McDonald, low income housing. So what do
Hmm.
you expect the school that once they consolidate and build, I think it's Ferguson Elementary School, what will be the quality of students that are going to attend that school?
And here's the reality: even if the students, and let's not let me say this, Mr. Floyd, because I can already hear people forming the thought in their mind that what we're saying is poor people are not intelligent.
No, no, we're not saying that, Chief. I'm
No,
not
we're
saying
not.
that. But what I'm saying, but
But the
when you look at the
reality is
demographic,
performance.
you look at the demographic.
And we
Let's
dealing
look
in
at
fact. We not dealing
yeah,
in feeling. We're dealing in fact. And the
yeah.
reality is, if you have in most low income communities, that's where your underperforming schools are. Now, if that's, I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's because they're underfunded. I don't know if that, I don't know why that is. I don't know what the data is on that,
Well,
but that's the reality. So the more low income communities you create, the more underperforming schools you're likely to have, because people are not, folks and are not clamoring to send their children. People who have resources are not just chomping at the bit to send their kids to a failing school. They're
let me
not
ask you another
chomping at the
question,
bit to
Chief.
do that.
Let me ask you another question, then, Chief.
Hmm.
You know, when we look at it, the 27 failing schools out of 84 just wasn't 24, 25 school years. Okay,
This has been going on
wasn't
for
it?
the better part of 20, 30 years,
What?
Mr. Floyd.
Okay, so this is what I'm saying. But the county gives the school system 13 or 14 million dollars retention money, but they don't stipulate. They give them $106 million for capital projects, but they don't say to the county board, I mean school board, is that we need for you to look at the 27 failing schools. How are you going to improve them
But it's
based
not, and
upon the
this, but
money?
this is the thing, Mr. Floyd, and I want to say this because I think this is the truth. It's not just on the county and the schools to improve the schools. Parents got to do better too.
I
Parents
agree
have
with you
got
on
to do
that, Chief.
better.
But
Parents
Chief,
have to be.
when you look at the number of kids that we have that on free lunch, the number of students that we consider that below the parents that below the poverty level, all of these factors play an important role into that.
Can you
But when a
imagine
parent,
being a Can you imagine being a teacher who comes to school prepared to teach a first grade class or a kindergarten class? And I'm using this as an example because my friends who are teachers have shared these things with me. Can you imagine being a teacher coming into your first grade or your kindergarten class, or even I've got a third grade teacher who has shared similar stories, and the kids don't even know their real name? They don't even know their parents' names. They just know, if you ask them, what's your mom's name? Mom. What's your name? Pookie. No, what is your name? Pookie. When is your birthday? They don't know these things. And these are natural conversations that should be happening in the home. that prepare a
Okay.
student for being outside the home to learn.
But you take that, and we look at the number of people that are receiving public assistance at the moment, and you nigga they where our income level fall at about 48 to $50,000 a year. When we look at Wake County, it's about $98,000 a year. So when you look at
We got
our
poor people
community,
problems. We got
yeah,
poor people
I,
problems.
I mean, you
We
can't blame the
do.
parent. They looking at, can I survive
No,
the
I
next
can't,
30
but
days?
I can, Mr. Floyd, and I'm gonna tell you why I can. And that this is as a parent who was poor. This is a parent who was poor. I can blame the parents because we still have to prioritize our children. Even when we are poor, we still have to prioritize our children. And that might mean that we have to build our village differently to be able to help support us and our children as we transition out of poverty. We used to be as a culture. Black folks coming out of enslavement were probably the poorest of the community because they didn't have anything, but they had each other. and
We raised
the
each other.
people
We raised.
and the people that came out of enslavement were more successful than a lot of us who never experienced it.
Well,
As a matter of
T,
fact, as a matter of fact, let me give our Black History bullet before we move forward because I forgot to do
okay,
that.
okay.
So, Mr. Floyd, you
And it
tasked
is Black
me.
History Month.
It is Black History Month, and you tasked me with having a Black History bullet for Black History Month. So here's the bullet, and I'm going to post some supporting documentation for this. By 1860, Fayetteville was one of only a handful of North Carolina towns with a significant free Black population, placing it among the largest such communities in the inland South. Free Black residents worked as skilled tradespeople, owned businesses, and held property, including families free for generations, like the parents of U.S. Senator Hiram R. Revels. This challenges the common assumption that antebellum Southern towns were uniformly enslaved societies. Fayetteville's economy included a vibrant, complex Black middle class. The sources that you can check for that are John C. Bala, The Antebellum North Carolina, A Social History, John Hope Franklin and Regional History on Free Black Artisans, and Biographical Records on Hiram R. Revels. So I will say it is we bear the responsibility because we have fallen off, Mr. Floyd. Right
Well,
here in Fayetteville, we have fallen off.
We can we have, if we look at this community,
Mm-hmm.
we look at a Black city manager, a Black county manager, okay, a Black superintendent of public schools, okay. When we look at all of this strength in our community and what we see this strength is tied to, and I know this is a different subject, if we can get grants, we can make our community better.
Well, I certainly appreciate the school grants that allow parents to be able to determine where they want to send their children to school. And I say that if Cumberland County wants to um, change the trajectory of their schools, it's going to need a multi-pronged approach, and it's going to require all hands on deck because we in a
I
bad
mean,
situation.
uh, T, unless there is a demand placed on the giving, this 27 failing schools again did not start it in 2024.
Hmm.
Okay, and so that's the concern that I have, in our community, to get our people to understand that though we are in leadership roles, but we're failing the 301 zip code. Okay,
And we
we're
really
fail.
need for people to stop looking to the government to fix everything. Like I really need for us to all actively engage in our own ways. And this is common sense. It shouldn't take a movement to get this done. Everybody needs to get in the game. Get in the
Yeah.
game. Mr. Floyd, on my Facebook page the other day, I was talking about a situation that I encountered with a little child and another person who I felt was kind of victimizing this child. We need to all step in. It's time for all hands on deck. We need to protect these children. We all need to take a hand in educating these kids. We need to step in. It's all hands on deck. We need to learn how to really support each other in this community instead of looking to somebody else to give us the playbook and the blueprint. And I don't know what that looks like for each person because every person has is endowed with their own gifting. But you need to get in your bag of gifts and you need to start giving them out to the people in your community because we need all hands on deck. And this is not a problem that our government is going to be able to solve. Our schools failing is a symptom of our communities breaking down.
But Chief, we are in many times we are in leadership roles. I'm going back again, and I know it keep bringing you back over here with these 84 units that's going to be built. So what we're talking about, help building community wealth. This is what we do. We get in a position, but we don't think about how we can partner. I know we did that in the past with, what's his name that walked away from 4 or 5 projects. We did that, but there's time that we have to look at it and say, we are constantly building community wealth for others and not for ourselves. So when you look at that, that's a $26 million project, and it's going to have 100% occupancy because the thought of it is, let's partner with who? The Fayetteville Metropolitan Planning Organ,
And they need housing. They
and
need
they
housing
need
because they got
housing.
people. Yeah.
They need so for the duration of it, maybe 10 to 15, 20, 30 years, it's going to be paid for.
Mr.
But at the
Floyd,
same,
poverty is very lucrative.
it
Poverty is
tell
very
me about
not
it.
for the poor people. Now, it's not lucrative for
No,
the poor folks at all, but
no.
poverty is very, very lucrative. There are a lot of people that make a lot of money off of keeping people poor. Now, Mr. Floyd, I want to hit this because I think a lot of people have a lot of questions about it, and we'll definitely come back to what we're talking about. But according to some reporting this week by City View Today, residents pressed local leaders for clarity during a public forum hosted by the FCEDC on how Fayetteville and Cumberland County plan to handle future data center proposals. So roughly 50 people, which by the standard of a community meeting is a good turnout. Roughly 50 people attended what was billed as an informational session, but it quickly became a venue for concerns about utility costs, environmental impacts, and transparency. FCEDC's president and CEO Robert Van Giens delivered a blunt assessment. Fayetteville is not ready, but interest is growing and more proposals are likely. While the city is not offering incentives, Van Gien said the region has received multiple inquiries and that its existing power infrastructure makes it attractive to developers. Now, the reason that this matters is because there are currently no tailored rules for data centers, no data center specific zoning or siting requirements. It's very reactive versus proactive. Van Giens emphasized the need to develop the rules and regulations before projects advance. There are some state level guardrails that are being put in place, like new 2025 rules negotiated by Duke Energy. And regulators are requiring developers to pay $100,000 for grid impact modeling, to prove land control, and to coordinate with local zoning officials. There's also under state law this tax policy overlay, which qualifying data centers are exempt from sales and use tax on equipment and on the electricity they consume, which shifts the fiscal calculus for local governments. Mr. Floyd, here's the impact to the community. This was the question that I kept asking last week. What is the benefit and the impact to the community? So here it is. Data centers can be massive electricity consumers, and you just heard what I said about electricity, about them not they are exempt from sales tax and use tax on equipment and on the electricity they consume. They can be massive electricity consumers and significant water users, raising concerns about capacity for future growth and environmental stress. Here's the jobs reality. As explained by John Geeb, founder of Kilowatts Collaborative LLC, most facilities, this talks about what you said. Now, last week, how many people did you say that they said they were going to employ?
500.
Most facilities employ relatively few people, often
Less than 100.
20 to 30 people. The wages for those 20 to 30 people are typically high. Here's the environmental risk. So this trade-off is for 20 to 30 jobs, higher electricity costs, decline of our an uptick in water usage that they're not having to offset for 20 to 30 jobs. Environmental risk, on-site generators and emissions management remains a point of concern for nearby residents. Here's the upside. Supporters cite large capital investment, increased tax base, and long-term infrastructure improvements. Isn't that what they always say? But
That's
all
what
of
they
this
said.
says to whose benefit, along with the philanthropic contributions from the
Let me,
operators.
I mean, let me ask you a question. That
Go ahead.
who did you say that led this discussion? Robert, what's his name?
Van Giens. And I'm
And
surprised
what
to
is
see
his
that he
job?
said
What
economic
his
development.
job
And he said,
is
we're
to
not
create
ready.
jobs. But he said also is that they are coming anyway. Okay, that they are
Right.
coming anyway. But I don't have to set up a policy or anything when I don't have. I mean, when I don't support this economic venture. When the city of Tarboro, North Carolina, rejected it, and they oppose, it tells
Poe.
you hope that it tells you something about these centers within itself. Now, look at where they want to locate it. Hawthorne plant, if I'm not mistaken, is I think it's about the first incoming water source to the city of Fayetteville. That's down there on the Cape Fear River. Okay, that's where they want to locate it. So you imagine now, if a Hawthorne is A, then they are B as it relates to water intake. Now we got a problem because we are not that strong, and we spoke a couple of weeks ago in Grove not to allow Fuquay to take water from the Cape Fear River base and pour it back into the Neuse River. So we don't know what is going to happen. Lord knows
We
downstream
didn't even
that the
we didn't even want to let our neighbors have some water.
so you
they
see what I'm
we
saying?
was in the uproar about letting our neighbors have some water.
Okay, so that should tell you something. But we
Yeah.
have a water problem, not only with the public, the work keep on out there, that's contaminating out by Graves Creek. We have a water problem. When
Yeah.
the county want to do a $1.4 billion water system, where is this water gonna come from? It's gonna come from the Cape Fear River. So if the county want to meet its $1.4 billion project, and then they want to come in and use the water source for cooling and also gas emission, then we need to think, is it worth it? I know I said 500 jobs, but that's what one firm. And the other question of it is, what's going to happen after the 15 to 20-year lifespan of the center?
Which is
What's
one of the
going to happen?
questions that's being asked regularly because and because you said that, I want to read a comment that we got. Um I think the bigger question is the risk. The AI bubble is real. What happens when they start building these projects and then abandon them? The chips right now have a lifespan of 1 to 8 years, making fast obsolescence a thing. We need sustainable jobs and economic benefits. I think that speaks to exactly what you're saying.
Well, that's the thing that we had over by our Hawthorne plant. We had a textile company that was over there, and when they left, we were providing $50,000 a year to help with the contamination of the soil moving toward the Hawthorne plant, which was a water treatment facility for PWC. So we need to look at that. And many people saying that they look at this as they did Hall Farm. If you can
Mhm.
remember Hall Farm back in the day with the smell and the odor from the Hall Farm. So,
Mhm.
is it a good investment? I don't think so. But
All money is not good money, like they say in the good spades game. Mr. Floyd, before we wrap up today, I want to just really quickly go back because I said we go back to what we were talking about because I thought about something and I think it's worth noting. There's a private school here in Fayetteville. I'm not going to mention it because when I mention the person, because he is deceased, it could be a little bit sensitive. But there's a private school here in Fayetteville that I went to visit. And when I went to visit this private school, I had a conversation with the founder of the school. And when I walked through the school is 90% black kids. And the founder was a white man. And one of the things that he told me was, and his staff is primarily black as well. One of the things that he told me is his investment is in making sure that these kids have safe and sustainable education that pushes them forward in a meaningful way. And he acknowledged that the vast majority of his students were poor black kids and that most of them were there as a result of the opportunity scholarship. Now, I this school has been around for a very long time. So long that I remember when 21st century learning centers was a thing, when it started being a thing, they were one of the first facilities that I saw position themselves as a 21st century learning center. And I just want to say that the work that they're doing there does demonstrate that poverty does not equal not educable. Am I saying that right? That word right? I might not be saying that word correctly, but y'all fix it if I'm not, because I know I butcher words. I know that my brain goes faster sometimes than my mouth. But the the truth of the matter is, children need environments that they're invested in. They need an environment where the people, and I'm not saying, and I want to be very clear because I love teachers. I'm not saying that teachers don't want to invest in their students. I'm saying that the political constraints now of our public schools do not give them the capacity to be able to invest in these poor kids in the way that they need to be invested in. And so I just want to be really clear that we are not saying that poor people cannot learn and that poor people are stupid. I've been poor when I
All
was
right.
raising my children.
Tell you what to do,
And
teach. Tell you what to do. You ask a person, neurologist, and to see your brain capacity. They say it's about was the CC, whatever they call it, is much larger than the outside, the 301. So if your brain is much larger than outside of 301, that means that your storage capacity and your memory capacity is much larger.
we just need investment and
That
not money. We don't need people throwing money at the problem. We need real solutions and we need all hands on deck. This is a
again,
crisis, it's an epidemic. It's been going on, like Mr. Floyd said, for the better part of decades.
well,
We need
teach,
to get serious about our kids.
teach when we really look at it, poverty benefits the haves.
It does.
It benefits the haves.
It does. They make a
And
lot of
and
money
and,
off of people being poor.
and that's it. You know, when I ride down the streets and I see all of these quick stop stores and I see all of this, they are in many poor communities, what they call food deserts. Now if they say that a 7-Eleven store, in a poor neighborhood, something tells me that there's money there because they sure enough not gonna build it on Morganton Road. Okay, they're not gonna
There's
build a
that.
Burger King on. They're not gonna build a Burger King on Morganton Road now, or a McDonald's. Okay, so you have to look at that. But the whole thing of it is, T, that what I would like for people to start looking at is looking at leadership and see whether or not your community is growing. Okay, a lot of talk. But anyway, I know we're about ready to close. But let me say, T, that one of my best person that I have enjoyed working with is going to retire. I think it's July the
Yes.
31st.
Yes.
July the 31st. He's
Yes.
going to retire, and that's Mike
I
Kowski.
love him. I love
You
him.
know,
I
it,
think he has been such a pleasure. He has been such a pleasure, and he's been a powerhouse at Cape Fear Valley Health System. Now, let me ask you this: I know we made contact to see about getting him
yeah,
on. Are we
he
looking to
agreed to
have him
come.
on?
He agreed to
Okay, good
come.
deal.
We just quite naturally the weather is sort of making staff time on and off because you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But he agreed to come on and have a conversation with us, and we're hopeful that we will have that within the next month. There, he's
Absolutely.
already
So if
agreed
you've
to
got
come on.
questions for Mike Nagowski before he heads out as the CEO of Cape Fear Valley, let us know and we'll ask those questions as time permits. Mr. Floyd, what do you want to leave our audience with today?
Well, Teach, I just wish that our people will begin to think about these persons that they are going to elect, uh, March day, I think it's March the 3rd, to serve them for a number of years. Please, 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 if they're not going to be Amazon, Federal Express, UPS, or even snail mail, you know, just leave it blank. If you don't believe none of those persons are going to do that service that you need there. And again, Madam Wardia, I know you disagree with it, but I'm not voting on the experience. I'm voting on what one of the person that you sent me in a video said. I'm voting on how well I like
Well, I will say what I always say because I don't have anything to new to add. There is no justice apart from Jesus. So if apart from righteousness, and there's no righteousness apart from Jesus. So if you desire justice, social or otherwise, you must pursue righteousness. And in order to pursue righteousness, you got to chase after Jesus. So that is what I have to say. That is it. That is all. And in the words of the infamous Sheriff Wright, in life, some people are meant to take orders and some are meant to lead. You better figure out which one you are and get in your position. Until next week, that's all we have. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend to tell a friend, and we will catch you on the next episode.